1984, I built my first storage facility in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm delighted to tell you that storage facility today looks as nice, if not even better, than it did in 1984. That speaks to what a great business we're in. As we all know, real estate has its cycles. There are times to build, times to acquire. Then there are other times where you just want to hold on to what you've got and enjoy the cash flow. Well, today, this year, we are in the first phase of a development cycle. And that's what I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about the different stages of the development cycle. We're going to talk about which markets to develop in, actually which submarkets. We're going to discuss how to build, what to build, who should manage, how to finance, and anything else you might want to talk about today. I hope by the end of today, we will have you ready to get out of your seat, head out the door, and start looking for your first storage facility site, because it is a wonderful time to develop storage. So what makes this the case? We all know about supply and demand. Today we have demand as great as I've ever seen it in all my years, as it relates to the existing supply. So how do we know this? You can look every quarter, or you can listen every quarter to the four public companies, the REITs, when they report their earnings. This year, each quarter, and we've had 3 quarters reported now, and I know pretty well what the fourth quarter is going to look like as well, regarding revenue, expenses, and net operating income. The 4 public REITs, CubeSmart, company I used to work for, Extra Space, Uncle Bob's, also known as Sovereign, and Public Storage, all report quarterly, and for the first 3 quarters this year, they reported on average about 7% revenue growth, very modest expense growth, and about 9 to 10% net operating income growth. Fantastic numbers. For any real estate sector, these are numbers that just really are hard to beat. So performance is as good as it gets, and we've had a very limited supply growth over the last few years. And that, of course, relates to the recession. The Great Recession that we all just got through started in fall of 2008, really was 2009 was the only year that the storage sector, according to the reportings of the 4 public companies, actually had a down year in revenue. They were down only about 3% that year. And since then, we've been growing slowly back up to where we are today with 7% revenue growth. So because of the Great Recession, nothing has gotten built. So you look at the imbalance between the amount of supply growth we've had versus the demand that's being evidenced by the fantastic revenue growth. Today's the day to start thinking about building a storage facility. Another way to look at it, and this really is the one that is probably the most dramatic for you to understand how impactful building a storage facility is today to your bottom line, your personal wealth, and that is to look at cap rates. Look at a development cap rate versus a sales cap rate. A development cap rate is really simple. You just take your net operating income and divide it by your all-in cost. So if it costs you $10 million to build a storage facility, that's all-in cost. That is cost of land, cost of building it, cost of lease up, all your soft costs, $10 million. And you're generating $1 million a year in net operating income at stabilization. Well, that's a 10 development cap rate, or a 10 yield on cost, if you will, 10% yield on cost. You take that same facility and say, okay, I don't want to own it long term. I just want to sell it to the highest bidder. And of course, it will be determined by what market you're in. So if you just take a 6, take a mid-range there, a 6 cap rate, and you've developed it to a 10 yield, you've got 400 basis point spread between your cost and what somebody is going to be willing to pay you for that property. Again, I've never seen spreads any greater than that. Today, we're seeing a lot of deals at Jernigan Capital, and those development cap rates range really between a low of 8, probably a high of 12. So 10 is a good number to target when you go back to your market and you start doing the numbers on a potential development site. So why now? If you've ever thought about building a storage facility, now is the time to do it based on how much it costs to build today, still reasonable, what kind of rents you can get, how modest expense growth is, how great the net operating incomes are, how great those development yields are, development cap rates, and what you could potentially sell the property for if you wanted to. But then again, put long-term financing on it and own it long-term, and I think you will be richly rewarded for many years to come. Thank you.